Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Women Racing to Win. Joe Samaniego here, along with Daniel from Racer the Girls Behind the Helmet. Wonderful to be back live on the air. If you're in the chat room, be sure to comment. We'd love to hear from you, especially questions about the races we're going to be discussing about. And we'll definitely start with the big weekend we had at Monza, the Italian GT season opener.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Good early morning if you're in the US, and good afternoon if you're on the other side of the Atlantic. It's great to be back live with you, Joe. Last weekend as you said, I was in Monza for the inaugural weekend of the Italian GT Championship. It's a very competitive championship. At the first round, there were like 34 cars on the grid. Huge field for a national GT championship. There are GT3 cars, GT4 cars, and also GT Cup cars, which are like GT3, but not the latest versions, or cars that are also racing in one make series, which are really not on the same level of the GT3 cars racing in other championships. In this championship, we have two female drivers. One is Carrie Schreiner, 21-year-old from Germany. Here you can see her profile here on the screen, and we definitely encourage you to follow Carrie on her social media pages. She's a really important driver in Europe. Last year she was racing well. In the last couple of years, she has been racing in the ADAC GT Masters, which is the really top championship for GT cars in Germany, before the DTM switched to GT3 spec. Carrie was racing with the Audi R8 from the Rutronic team, which is probably one of the most important teams in Germany in the GT environment. And now she has switched to the Ferrari machinery for the AF Corse, which is like the top Ferrari team in Italy. So definitely from one big team to another. And in the Italian GT, making her switch to the Italian GT, it was a little bit of a surprise move for Carrie. She's also racing in the VLN, now rebranded NLS, Nürburgring Langstrecke Series, which is the endurance championship racing, always on the Nordschleife, one of the most trickiest and most challenging racetracks in the world. Carrie has been racing together. She's racing together with Sean Hudspeth, a 27-year-old driver from Singapore, who won the title in the Italian GT Championship last year in the endurance class. Because in this championship there are two classes: one of the sprint class, and the other is the endurance class. There are one race weekend is valid for the sprint category, and the other one is for the endurance classify. So the first round in Monza was valid for the sprint category, and there was also another female racer on track, Francesca Linossi, another important driver because she also was the 2019 champion in the series, also in the endurance classify. And she made her switch to the sprint classify together with Easy Race, again with Ferrari, while she was previously racing with the Mercedes AMG GT3 car. And she's sharing the car with a Swedish, very young Swedish driver, Daniel Webster, who made the switch from single seaters, even though last year he was racing in GT4. It was his very first race in GT3 machinery. Francesca and Daniel were racing in the GT Cup class because, of course, they were racing with the Ferrari 488 challenge car, so they were not racing in the same category as Carrie and Sean. It was very good start of the season for Carrie, because together with Sean Hudspeth, they were topping both the free practice sessions on Friday. They were super fast in their overall category. And coming into the qualifying on Saturday, they were P2 in the first qualifying in Q1, and unfortunately the rain started to fall in Q2, and they were P10 after Carrie had some traffic at the beginning, and she was out on slick tires when the rain started to fall. and then she had a yellow flag with a driver spinning just in front of her. So it was a little bit of a troubled second session for Carrie, and she qualified P2. But still, the race one on Saturday afternoon, there was a massive downpour, huge rain, and Sean was set to start the race in the first stint. And unfortunately, after just 3 laps behind the safety car, the race started behind the safety car for the obvious difficult conditions. There was an accident in the middle of the pack for the very tough visibility. So the race was red flagged, and after a long red flag interruption, it was of course it was late in the afternoon, and the light was starting to go down, and the race officials were forced to postpone the race to Sunday morning. So on Sunday there was a very they had to reschedule every races, because there was also, of course, a support series on Sunday. But they did manage to get 2 races on Sunday, one on the morning and one in the afternoon. It's 90 minutes races with 45 more or less driving stints per driver. Sean Hudspeth took the wheel for the start on race 1. He had a difficult start to race 1, but Carrie, once she was in the car, she was really fast, and she was really making up positions, and she was P4 with 6 minutes to go. And unfortunately, she had a drop in performance in the final minutes, and she dropped to P7 overall. But she was P3 in the GT3 Pro-Am class. So decent start of the championship for Carrie Schreiner, who had a podium in her first race of the season in the GT Italian Championship. In the second race, she was set to take the start, of course. She was pretty good in the second race. Managed to she was starting, of course, P10 after the Q2, and did manage to climb the classified, climb the order, and handed over to Sean Hudspeth again in P4 after her first stint. And Hudspeth again was very close to a podium finish. He was very fast and catching up with the top drivers. He passed a Lamborghini for the podium, and unfortunately, the Lamborghini tried to respond back, and they had a little bit of a contact coming into the Ascari chicane. Sean Hudspeth spun into the gravel, and he rejoined in P9. But unfortunately, a very strange situation. They received a 1-minute penalty at the end of the race because they were not the only ones to receive such a penalty, because they completed the driver switch, the driver change before the pit window was actually open. So it was a little bit of a difficult situation and strange situation for a experienced and important team like AF Corse. They finished P17, I think, outside of the points. So not great second race for Carrie, but the important thing, I think, it was that they proved that they are very competitive, topping both free practice sessions. The pace is right there, and for the remaining of the season, we can definitely expect to see Carrie Schreiner to be on top of her game. And the big news was, of course, for Francesca Linossi, who was P4 in the first race, starting from they started P3 and P4 in class. And she was P15 and P4 in the first race, and actually she won the second one. She was P1 at the end, with a great race for Francesca in the first stint. They were starting P3 in class. She managed to climb to P1, handed over to Webster in lead. And unfortunately, they had a little bit of a moment in the final minutes, because they were very tight on fuel. And they were losing time in the final laps, so it was very tight. But luckily, they did manage to cross the line with enough fuel, and they won the first race of the season. And Francesca Linossi is now leading the GT Cup category in the Italian GT.
The conditions were very difficult. It started to rain 10 minutes before the session, and then it was quite wet. A crash in the beginning, then red flagged, and they didn't stop the time, so we just had 8 minutes left. I tried to get used to conditions in the first 2 or 3 laps. Then I had quite a big improvement in the last lap, and then in my quickest, someone in front of me spun, so it was not a good luck. But yeah, let's see for the race. I don't know how the weather will be, but Sean will be on P2, so let's see. Conditions are really difficult. So we struggled in the beginning, Sean in his stint and me in my stint. Just in the first 2 laps. But I think later it will be dry, so we have a good, will be better. The race was quite good. We both had a good pace and drove a good race, but then we had a little crash. The Lamborghini spun us around, so I don't know where we ended.
This was Carrie Schreiner after in her own words after the weekend. The next race will be in one of the very interesting Italian track, Pergusa, for the start of the endurance classify.
Very exciting weekend over at Monza. It's a tough break to have that accident, especially when it's something beyond your control, another vehicle trying to get back to you. One series that is very commonly known for having a lot of contact, the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. And there we saw them at Kansas Speedway for the Wise Power 200. Jennifer Jo Cobb, she was, of course, starting further back in the pack, 37th. NASCAR, still no qualifying this year due to the pandemic. So they're going based off your points standing and your prior race position. Of course, Jennifer Jo Cobb, a smaller team. So essentially they're further in the back, starting off the race, but then during the third stage, each NASCAR race has 3 stages. So you run a certain amount of laps in stage 1, then stage 2, and then the final stage, stage 3. The fourth caution of the day was because of Jennifer Jo Cobb. Her vehicle came to a stop with electrical issues. Essentially, this relegated her down to 37th place in the 200-mile race, which is a tough break for Jennifer Jo Cobb. Of course, a lot of news about her, especially fans believing that she deserved an opportunity to race at Talladega in the NASCAR Cup Series. The other driver who is starting to make progress in her rookie campaign in the Camping World Truck Series, Hailie Deegan. Hailie Deegan started 20th and ran a solid race, avoiding trouble all day long. Kansas has a reputation for some big crashes, intense racing, very tricky track. This was the track where she made her debut start last year in the fall at Kansas. And this is definitely another track where she seems to be excelling at. She came home 16th place at Kansas, and that was the exact same spot she finished last year in her Truck Series debut. And this is her best finish in the Truck Series so far. Now, just to remind everyone, this is only her 8th career NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. Daytona, of course, that's a restrictor plate track. Always going to be really hard, just more matter of luck. Then, of course, we had the Daytona Road Course, which was put in to replace California Auto Club Speedway. So a lot of changes for her to, in her 8th start, come up to 16th place. That's really good. And of course, later on, when NASCAR released the starting lineup for the Truck Series, anticipate Hailie Deegan to be a little bit further to the front. It's very unfortunate Jennifer Jo Cobb will still be in the back. The next truck race will be at Darlington this weekend. The track, too tough to tame. For folks not familiar with Darlington Raceway, it's one of NASCAR's most historic racetracks. It's in South Carolina. It's the only racetrack in South Carolina NASCAR visits currently. It is the home of the Southern 500, one of NASCAR's biggest staple races, up there with the Daytona 500 and the Coca-Cola 600. And it's also throwback weekend. So you're going to see a lot of trucks, a lot of cars this weekend at Darlington with some of their paint schemes attributing to past racers from different eras. So you're going to be seeing paint schemes from the 70s, 80s, 90s, even the 60s. So it's going to be a really fun, exciting race weekend. Definitely going to be very interesting folks to follow that as well. And of course, we had Euro Formula racing across the pond at Portimao.
Yes, it was the support series of the Formula One race in Portimao for the Portuguese Grand Prix. We also had a female driver, Vivian Ketzelli, Hungarian racer, who is famous for being part of the inaugural W Series Championship. She actually was selected to be a reserve driver in W Series. But after and she was allowed to do the free practice sessions prior to the race weekends. But after performing very well in free practice, they actually allowed her to race in 3 races in W Series in 2019, and she was 18 at the time. And did manage to score points. She was the only reserve driver to score points in the series. So definitely a driver to look. She was priorly racing only in GT4 championships, and so she was making her debut in single seaters in W Series. And this year she will be back in Formula 3 machinery with the Euroformula car. She's racing with Motopark, a German team. This year it's not a huge grid, the Euroformula, only 13 drivers, but a very good quality. There's a little bit of an imbalance between the Formula Regional and Euroformula this year. So the 2 main Formula 3 regional championships in Europe, there are like 33 drivers in the regional by Alpine, and there are like 13 drivers in Euroformula. So a little bit of an imbalance, but still very, very interesting championship and with good quality. And Ketzelli had a great preseason testing in Barcelona 2 weeks ago, when she was also within the top 5 at the end of the first day. So a driver to look forward to her progress. In Portimao, she had great battles for P9 and P10 throughout the weekend. So she was battling to score her first points in the championship. And there was also a curious case with the driver Jack Crawford, with the American, who was only allowed to race on Sunday when he turned 16. So he did free practice on Friday. He was not allowed to compete in the official first part of the weekend with qualifying and race 1 and 2. He was only allowed to race on Sunday. In race 1, Vivian Ketzelli was P10 after a long battle with Enzo Scionti, Italian and American. She ultimately did get the position and finished P10. In race 2, she also managed to finish P9, so a little bit more of progress from her. And unfortunately, again in race 3, she was again battling with Scionti for those couple of positions, but she had a spin coming into the final laps and dropped back to P12. But it's all part of learning process, I would say, for Vivian. It's her first year in full season in Formula 3, as I said, after the debut, part-time debut in W Series in 2019. She also had a couple of races in the Formula 3 Asia Winter Series in 2018. So those were the only races in single seaters that she had after her GT debut. She was at 17. She was the youngest driver to ever score a podium finishes in the Audi R8 LMS championship. So a driver that started very young to score points and pole positions and podiums, and hopefully we will see more from her in remaining part of the Euroformula season, which started with 3 victories from the American driver Cameron Dass, and we will be following closely the remaining season of this championship.
This past weekend was the first weekend for Moto E season of the 2021 year. It took place at Jerez, site of course the MotoGP Spanish Grand Prix. Julia Trusivix reported on Maria Herrera competing in the electric motorcycle racing series. Now this is the 3rd season of Moto E. Of course, Moto E essentially one of the new support series, and of course the first electric motorcycle racing that we're seeing out there. And this is her 14th start in Moto E, and she found herself Friday, 14th in the first practice. However, qualifying for Moto E, big improvement in Jerez. She put down a fast lap and sounded a pole for quite some time. And then she was very happy qualifying 9th. She said, "I am very happy. I knew I had to improve on 1 lap, and I succeeded. I have reduced my time by 2nd, and tomorrow I will start in the 3rd row. I am looking forward to the race." Now, of course, for some of our American fans that may not follow MotoGP or motorcycle racing, their starting grid is not 2 vehicles in a row. It's usually 3 vehicles, sometimes 4, depending on the track and depending on the series. So to be in the first 3 rows, that is a huge accomplishment. Yes, ninth place. If we're talking about like IndyCar and NASCAR, that's a little ways back. But 3rd row, very good. The race, typical race we see at Jerez when it comes to drivers and equipment being tested really hard. Several riders crashed, including the leader of the race at one point. However, Maria, she was climbing. She climbed up to 8th place and was overall doing good. However, forearm pain plagued her race at the midway point. Of course, this became a big topic after we saw on Sunday, Fabio Quartararo leading the race had the same arm pump pain. This is very typical when it comes to riders when in motorcycle racing, using all their muscle, all their strength to maneuver the motorcycle lap after lap. So for her, she was able to continue racing on, finish race. She did lose 1 spot, falling back to 9th place again. But of course, that's where she started. So overall, a very good weekend for Maria and the team as well. The next Moto E race is going to be May 16th, French Grand Prix weekend. And that is at, of course, the same track that we know as the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So definitely very exciting for Maria. And a big shout out to Julia for reporting at Jerez. Definitely a very exciting weekend. And we got a lot of upcoming racing this weekend that we're going to encourage everyone to follow.
Yeah, you said it right. There will be a lot of interesting races this weekend, and not as many as last weekend, which were really tough to stay up to date. But we will be following some very interesting races, like the Formula Regional by Alpine, which is again racing together with Formula One after the first round in Imola. Belen Garcia, the Spanish driver that will also be competing in W Series later this year, will be making a return to the Formula Regional. She's doing a partial campaign in the series, not the full season, but she started in the season in Imola. She will be racing in Barcelona, which is of course also her home race. But we will also see the return of the Swiss driver Lena Buller, who actually missed the first round due to an injury, a hand injury. She also sent us the pictures of her hand. She had she had a fracture in her hand after a testing accident in Imola. It was like 6 weeks ago. She says that she's now fully ready to race this weekend, and we definitely wish her and Belen the best for the upcoming race in Barcelona. But there's also a very, very interesting race, and we definitely encourage everyone to see this one. It's the British Formula 4 start of the season at Thruxton with Abby Pulling racing for JHR developments. We also had a very interesting interview with Abby and her coach, Alice Powell, on our website. So if you haven't seen it already, we definitely encourage you to do so. Abby is personally, I think, one of the most interesting female prospects in the motor racing, single-seater motor racing of the past couple of years. So I'll definitely be looking forward to see Abby, what she can do in her second year in the series. In preseason testing, she was always right up there for P1, P2, P3. When she was not happy. So definitely we can expect her to score points for sure, podiums, and hopefully that wins that she missed last year, and hopefully she will be fighting for the title. Also at Thruxton we will have the BTCC, the British Touring Car Championship, with the Jade Edwards making her debut in full season in the very popular British Championship. She had a one race in last year in Silverstone in the championship for another team, actually, for the Power Max Racing, while this year she is racing for BT Racing. And also at Magny-Cours in France, we will have a couple of very interesting races to follow. One of them is the French Formula 4 class that will see Angelina Favario making her return to the track. It will be Angelina's very only second race ever in motorsport. She had a solid weekend in the first one at Nogaro. So definitely looking forward to see how she will progress. And also the Alpine Europa Cup, also at Magny-Cours, with Gojar Dest, also former W Series racer, and Lilou Wadou. Right now we have the first practice session for the Alpine Europa Cup. It's raining, and we are currently under red flag for the rain. And also, as you said, there will be the race of the NASCAR track race at Darlington with Hailie Deegan and Jennifer Jo Cobb. So this is a roundup of the races that will be following this coming weekend, and we'll be reporting with these results next week.
And we definitely encourage everyone to be sure to visit racersbehindthehelmet.com. There you can find the calendar and a listing of all the female racers racing each and every weekend. Very useful. And of course, as Daniel mentioned, great articles, great reporting from the track, great team at Racers Girls Behind the Helmet. Be sure to follow them. Subscribe to the Grid Network right here on YouTube. We are at 188 subscribers. We're getting very close to 200. That's our big goal for the month of May, hit 200. And we encourage everyone, be sure to comment, like the video, and share, especially if you know a female racer at your local track, whether it's a karting track, dirt track. Let them know about this program. We'll love to feature them, talk about more of the women racing to win. For Daniel at Racers, the Girls Behind the Helmet, I'm Joe San Diego. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day and enjoy the races. Joe San Diego here. Want to invite you to go check out Cobblist. Cobblist is a dog clothing and accessory company based in Austria. 10% of each of your purchases goes to helping dogs in need, whether it's homeless, sick, or ill dogs. This is one of the reasons why we support it. Kiska here is a rescue dog from rural Alaska and our Grid office dog. We care about our furry buddies, and we know you do as well. Definitely check out Cobblist.com. There's a link on the video description, and by clicking on that link, you get a 10% discount on your purchase as well.